Design Review Commission meeting for Monday, June 9th, 7 p.m. Roll call. Glenn Cass present.
John Gray, present.
Richard Stanton, present.
Okay, so we have an excused absence on the other two?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Next item, adoption of the agenda. Do we have any changes or do we have a motion to adopt?
I'll move to adopt.
Do we have-
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. This item is for public comments for items under the purview of this commission that are not on today's agenda. Do we have any raised hand on Zoom or any comment slips from participants?
No.
Thank you. Next, we have two consent calendar items. The first item is approval of the minutes of the meeting from May 27th, 2025. Do we have any changes?
No, I was just thinking, I do think we have a quorum because I think there are only three of us and you and I are here, right?
Yeah,
So I would think. So I'll move that we approve the minutes of May 27th.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next consent item is HDP 1624. This was a grading, retaining wall, driveway corrections at 3385 Woodview Drive. It was scheduled to be heard tonight for resolution and they have pulled their application. So I assume we have no, other than registering that it's done for DRC, we have no action to take.
Could I ask a question of staff?
Yes,
How is their plan to remove the work going to be enforced?
through code enforcement. So the code enforcement officers are working closely with the property owner to establish the timeline and get it to be code compliant, get the property to be code compliant.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next item we have is,
Do we vote on the consent calendar?
no, we don't have to vote on that. That's just
Okay.
not as just a knowledge item. New public hearings, TR 9707, HDP 2724, GR 1624, TP 4824. This is all at Oak Hill Place. This is a 17-unit development. And Stephanie is the staff consultant and will give us a presentation of what's going to occur.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioner, members of the public. My name is Stephanie Cervantes, a senior planner with the planning division, and I will be presenting item TR 9707 tonight. The project includes a major subdivision with a hillside development permit, a grading permit, and a tree permit for 17 new units with 3 attached ADUs at 3600 Deer Hill Road. The project site is on the corner of Deer Hill and Oak Hill Road. The entire project site is roughly a square with a little jag on the northeastern side, and it's about 3.19 acres. The project site is zoned R10 and it does contain a hillside overlay district. The site is just north of the BART station and Highway 24. You can see the solar panels on the BART parking lot there, just south of the project site. And the site is just a few blocks north of the downtown area as well. So as previously stated, the project is proposing 17 new single-family lots that will be developed with single-family residential structures. Those are the white parcels. There's an additional 5 parcels as well that will be included in the project. So the first is parcel B in the blue on the northeastern corner of the project, which will be for open space. Parcel C in gray, which is the proposed vehicle access and road within the project site. Parcel D in green is the about southern third of the project site, which currently hosts the Lafayette Hillside Memorials, commonly known as the Process. which is proposed to remain as is. There's also a small parcel E in yellow that is between lots 7 and 16 that is proposed for a new sewer easement. The project includes a range of parcel sizes as well as 5 different housing types that range in size and heights. The units range from 2 to 4 bedrooms. And the 4-bedroom units also include the attached ADU. All the units have an enclosed garage for the main unit as well as an assigned parking space. And the units also vary in height. There's a handful of single-story units as well as all the way to 3-story units as well. The project does propose a removal of 95 trees, including 80 protected trees. And I'll go into a little bit more detail in a further slide. Due to the crosses being preserved, the developable area is about 2.3 acres. On this exhibit, you can see the 17 homes as well as the proposed community park at the center, which will preserve a 100-year-old valley oak that is existing on the site. Other improvements also include the vehicle access on Oak Hill Road, as well as a pedestrian path near Unit 11 that will connect near the intersection of Oak Hill and Deer Hill. There is also a proposed public walkway along Oak Hill Road that will be in the public right of way, but most of it will be on the private property as well. The project also includes bioretentions that you can see on this exhibit, just south of the proposed driveway and then near Unit 12 and 12. So as previously mentioned, there's 5 different unit types. This exhibit shows where those unit types are. For the most part, they are clustered except for Plan 4, which is used for units 11, 16, and 17. And I'll go into a little bit more detail on those. So Plan 1 will be used for units 1 through 3 on the western side of the project. These are 2-story units that will contain 4 bedrooms, be a little over 4,000 square feet. Again, they all have a 1-car garage, as well as outdoor patio and porch space. And in this exhibit, you can see what the front elevations will look like, as well as the colors that will be used for these buildings. This shows the roof types for these buildings. You can see for lot 2, unit 2, that they have a pitched roof over the garage. Plan 2 will be used for units 4 through 7. These are also 2-story buildings that will contain 3 bedrooms and have some office space as well. These units are proposed at 1,712 square feet. Again, have the 1-car garage and outdoor space. In this exhibit, you'll notice that lot 4 has a slightly different roof type. And this is to accommodate, to preserve as much view for the property owners to the north of the project site. So that roof pitch has been lowered in order to address some of their concerns, as well as lot 5, that building had originally been mirrored so that there was mirrored buildings every other one. But in order to allow as much view for the northern property owners, that building has been flipped. And again, these are the roof plans for those 4 buildings there. Plan 3 will be used for units 8 through 10, which are at the center loop of the project site. These are 3-story buildings, so this is the front elevation that will read more like a 2-story. But on the back side will read as a 3-story. So these are the units that have 4 bedrooms. There's the larger units that will also have the attached ADU. They're a little over 2,000 square feet. And again, they have the enclosed garage and outdoor space. And these are the roof plans for those units. Plan 4 will be used for units 11, that's to this on the southern portion of the project site, and unit 16 and 17, which is on the northern side of the proposed driveway access. This is the 1-story design, which will have 2 bedrooms, slightly over 1,000 square feet. Again, we'll have the enclosed garage and outdoor space. And then for these, unit 11 is the unit that's proposed to be an affordable reserved unit. And here's the floor, the roof plan for unit 4. Unit 16 and 17 will have similar roof plans. And the last plan is for the units 12 through 15, which are along Oak Hill Road. These are 2-story units. From the street side, they read more like a single story with an attic space, but from the rear will read as a more traditional 2-story. These are 3-bedroom units that also have a flex space. And again, we'll have the enclosed garage and outdoor private space. And these are the roof plans for these units. So the site, there's 160 trees on or near the site. The exhibit here does contain all the trees that were surveyed for the project. Of the 160 trees, 95 are proposed for removal, 80 of which are protected. Most of the protected trees are coastline oak. There's 20 valley oak, 2 buckeye, and then 9 non-native species that are protected due to their size. This is the landscape plan again. So as you can see again, they are proposing the community park at the center that will preserve the 100-year-old valley oak. The light green is existing vegetation that's to remain. And this plan also shows the 64, 65 trees that will remain on site, as well as the proposed trees that will be planted for mitigation replacement trees of the proposed protected tree removals. Each home will also have plantings at the front. Some of the homes will have retaining walls as well. And most of the new trees are proposed along the northern, eastern and southern property line that will increase the shielding that the project site would have for the existing public right-of-ways. This is a close-up of the proposed park. You can see the 100-year-old tree here, as well as the new tree plantings, the proposed picnic and barbecue areas, as well as the proposed larger field. The project proposes to plant mostly ground cover type of ground cover along zone 0, which is the 5 feet around the building. And then outside of that 5 foot out of the building, they will be doing more flowering and shrub type plants. This is just a close-up of units 4 through 7, 16 and 17 of what the proposed trees and shrubs and ground covering will look like. I do have more exhibits with additional details as well. These are just 2 of the renderings that were included in the plan set. The plan set has several renderings. These 2 show the community park from 2 different angles. In terms of analysis, the project is proposed to be a density bonus project, so they do qualify for unlimited waivers, as well as 1 incentive or concession. The applicant has requested to use 1 concession on the project in order to apply the city's community tree preservation ordinance that went into effect after their SB 330 was deemed complete. The project's also asking for 5 waivers. The waivers are for height to allow a single family residence at 3 stories versus 2.5 is allowed for the zoning district. They're asking for a waiver on parking design to allow for parking space, parking in the front yard setback area, as well as 2 waivers for lot width and lot depth, or to allow for new lots below the minimum required lot and width size. And they're requesting a waiver from height limitations in required yards to allow a maximum fence structure above 6 feet within the required yard area as well. The project is consistent with the general plan, as outlined in the staff report and the planning commission resolution. And the project's also consistent with the zoning ordinance. Any inconsistencies have been addressed through waivers. The project is also consistent with the city's new tree preservation ordinance. The application has been reviewed through the new ordinance. The project is proposing replacement trees for all the protected trees that will be removed. And the project's also consistent with the infill CEQA exemption. The project was noticed at least 10 days before this hearing. There was a public notice that was emailed to the property owners within 500 feet and posted in 3 places near the project site. There was also a legal notice that was published in the East Bay Times Weekly, formerly the Lafayette Sun. Staff has received no comments since the publication of the staff report. Staff recommends that the design review committee review the proposal for building design and landscaping and adopt DRC resolution 2025-08, recommending that the city council approve the project. That is the end of my formal presentation. I am available for questions, and I also have detailed exhibits of all the buildings as well as the landscaping if the commission should like to see additional details during questions or during the discussion.
Okay, do we have any questions for staff? Yes, John.
Yeah, I have a question. I was looking through this set and, you know, it's a big set of drawings, so I could have missed it. I was looking for a drawing that depicted the context, including the neighboring homes. Site section is a good document to analyze the relative scale and view and potential screening. Did you find that in the set?
So do you mean from the northern property or?
The northern neighbors are the ones who probably wanna
Yeah.
understand the relationship to this project the most.
Yeah, so there is an exhibit showing essentially what the buildings will look like from the driveway of one of the northern properties. That's on page, it's the 3rd page, project imagery sheet 00.18, and I can also pull it up.
Let's see if I can find it. That was. The one with the white car?
Yes.
Okay, that I guess tells part of the story I'm after. I'd like to understand sightlines between the existing buildings and the proposed.
Yeah, we
buildings
don't,
And the screening that's proposed between them.
yeah. Sort of schematic that we have an outline of what the house on the north is and its elevation compared to the project.
Yes, 1 second, let me just pull up the site sections. I don't believe that any of the site sections include the existing.
No, the side sections I saw were just in the proposed design.
Yes, they don't include any of the existing homes.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, Richard?
No.
Okay, the applicant is welcome to do their presentation.
Yeah, so the applicant is on Zoom, so just 1 second while. Yes.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Hi.
Although not very loud.
Okay, let me see if I can turn this up. All right, I will speak up.
Thank you.
Okay, hi, yes. Okay, Stephanie, you have my slides there?
Yes, just 1 second to.
Okay, yeah, I mean, let me just walk through the slides really quickly. I think it might be useful just because I haven't met some of you. We've been doing this for a while, so it's nice to meet you and thank you for all your service. So Oak Hill Place, I'm on my first slide. Are you with me, Stephanie, or?
Not yet.
Okay. I'm not sure, like I'm seeing these adorable dogs on my screen, so.
Yes.
That's the first slide.
Kind of love them. They're making me happy.
No, public comment hasn't started.
I can also share my screen. Are you, oh, you're asking me to share mine.
I think right now Stephanie is working on sharing her screen with your presentation.
Okay.
Um,
I can actually show you some photos. Yeah, please.
okay. Do you?
Thanks.
There she is.
Can you pull that up?
She's. Or.
It should be different, like that's what I
Yeah. Laura, are you able to share screen? We can grant you that permission.
You seeing that?
Yes.
Good?
Yes.
All right, wonderful. Okay, so let me begin. So let me begin also just a little bit about myself. My husband was born and raised in Lafayette. We've raised our children here. I was also raised in the area, very local. This is my husband over on the left, went to Burton Valley High School all through Campo. We sent all our kids here through school. In the middle, I'm working at the Hillside. Great way to spend your Veterans Day. I'm also the one who spearheaded and produced the mural to the left of Uncle Hughes. I make this slide just so that everybody understands that I come from a place that I really care about this community. Very much a local person. I live less than a mile from the site. We are 0.5 miles away from the site within the radius of BART. And you can see that the yellow area is where the memorial is. And I always start this presentation with, no matter what happens through all this, that memorial stays where it is. They have an easement to be there, and that will remain. There are no changes proposed there. So this on the left is our sort of plan types diagram. I like to use the diagrams. I think they're a little bit easier to read than a lot of those civil drawings, or get kind of a lot of lines there. You can basically see how we started, which was number one, preserve the memorial. Number two, preserve all of the greenery at the top of the ridge and this beautiful oak tree at the top, which is a heritage oak. I designed a kind of a village green for this little community that everybody would be sharing a yard, as opposed to, the 2,000 square foot home on a half an acre. And what I'm trying to do in Lafayette is provide a variety of housing types to meet that missing middle. And so you'll see that we have kind of everything from the three ADUs, which are that 500 square foot, and then we move up to 1,000 square foot 2-bedroom cottages. Then we go to a 1,700 square foot family home. And then I really tried to design over all but 4 of them have kind of primaries on the main level, imagining that this is going to be a empty nest community, maybe your first home, young professionals. So really trying to kind of round out what Lafayette is offering with a walk to town. On the right, you have our social connections diagram. And this one I really kind of love, because this was really kind of how I designed this project, which is how can we create a community with good architecture. Everybody has a front porch. Over here on the left, we have a beautiful view of the ridge out here, and we have a little bench and a little place to gather there. The park is just a great place to meet. You can go and have your barbecue there, your birthday party. There's an outlook here. There's some shared pea patch kind of vegetable gardens. So that park is special. It kind of anchors the whole project under that big oak tree. The outdoor dining room, the project is gas free, but you can imagine, everybody gathering there for a barbecue. We have this area up here, which is behind the memorial, very wooded, and a beautiful view of Mount Diablo. I don't know what's going to happen up there. We're proposing that it remain very, very natural. We have the shortcut to town, which is basically the site feature which already exists, which is going to be a mulch path, which is a little bit of a shortcut down there. And this staircase also allows us to get maintenance people up here to care for what we've planted a lot of screening trees for this development. I guess I should also say that this line here is really like the ridge, and we've sunk the whole development back behind it. So right where you see this little kitchen garden, this wall here is a 12-foot wall. So we've really taken full advantage of terracing this whole development up and behind the ridge so that it's not to be seen. We've added the sidewalks since our planning commission made it really evident to us that pedestrian safety along there was very important. We have also worked with the neighbors. I will speak a little bit about that, but just back to, we have a bike share shed, some, mailboxes, you got to come out to get your mail. Some people have to come out to get their second parking spot. So the idea here is that, we have a little pocket neighborhood with people that care about each other and a walk to town. So these are some of the other renderings. This is as you enter the development, you have these 1-story cottages. And this is looking up at the park at units 1 through 3. This is out from the underside of your porch. If you're in unit 15, looking at the back side of 8, 9, and 10, these are those 3 ADUs where that loop it starts up high by the park and it's level with the park. And then you kind of drop. And here you have a whole nother layer. So just to be clear, this is not a 3-story building. The only place it's 3 stories is right at that moment where we have that dormer and the staircase. So it reads as a 1-story building from the park side and a 2-story building from the lower loop. And then this other one on the lower right is units 4 through 7. So more diagrams about the price. So it was important to us to not only provide this park, but also make sure that everybody had a private dining area or a little place to entertain. And so that will be part of the development, is to create a little patio for everybody. So we've diagrammed that. And then these are the parking spaces. And as you know, there's no parking required here, but everybody has 2 spots. So these were some of the comments we got from the Planning Commission. We've been at this since October of last year. And we made a lot of very significant changes for the Planning Commission. Some of the comment categories are on your left here. Pedestrian safety of course was important to me. I live here, so God forbid if anything ever happened there. So we decided to fill in the man-made culvert. It is not even a great culvert. I've had people say like, oh, it just collects trash. It's not that nice. So it worked out great for us because we were able to meet 2 of the planning commissioners' requirements, which was, can you please balance the site as well? Because we had a lot of off-haul the first time. So we filled in that site. We were able to get in a much more efficient units 12 through 15. We were able to put in that sidewalk for the community, and we were able to save 3 of the mature oaks by moving that sidewalk in and kind of winding them around along Oak Hill. So we're really much happier with the way that that's working along Oak Hill. We feel like it's a nice kind of beacon as an entry to the neighborhood. And it's really a weaving of the density between this kind of legacy neighborhood up north and the downtown. So we really tried to honor the typology, which is home ownership. And we tried to, make more homes available, right? We did get some pushback from some of the housing advocates that the first round we weren't using our density bonus to its capacity. So by filling in this culvert, it allowed us to do that. But more importantly, it allowed us to deal and work together with the Crips up here on the left, the Bava and the Bava vacant lot and the Bava residence. Leonis is over here. So just so you understand, like I met with over 50 community members before this project. As you know, I'm local, so it was really important to me that, sit down at my table and let me tell you about my project. And I got a lot of really great feedback. We had a ton of really positive letters. The people who showed up at the Planning Commission were these 4 adjacent neighbors, which I understand because they've been looking at open space now for about 30 years. So it's hard for them, but they've been, now they are on board. We have signed a cooperation agreement. We made a lot of really nice, meaningful adjustments to them. I can go through them briefly. Units 4, 5, 6, and 7 were moved to the east by 5 feet. So we now have a generous 20-foot setback here above and beyond the zoning. We also, unit 4 decided to reframe the roof so that there is a lower pitch on it. And I have a more detailed sort of diagram about these changes if you'd like. I'm just going to briefly go through them now because it's kind of no longer an issue because I don't think they're here. So that's just a good sign. So unit 16 and 17 got placed above the street. At the first round, we actually had the road right where it is currently, which kind of comes up and looped down, and they were really concerned about headlights into their room. And so just understand, like, I've met with these neighbors at least 6 times and sat at the table with them and asked them how we can, looking at it from their perspective. And so we have now, we are now in a, I think, in a cooperative place, and they have signed that cooperation agreement, and this new easement exchange is underway. So of the changes that we made from the Planning Commission to now, I feel like, almost like the whole northern edge changed and the whole eastern edge changed, but the concept of the development has remained the same. So here you have that new public sidewalk. We tried really hard to grade this in a way where there were these 3 pretty nice mature oak trees, so it wasn't such a shock to the neighborhood. Like, I think we can save these. You're looking through a lot of shielding. It is a slight retaining wall. Here it is here. The second round, we were able to drop everything by 10 feet. I know, I'll hurry. You can see the sidewalk here. We really tried with the architecture to keep things in this kind of natural earth tone, the kind of colors you might find in an oak tree, pushed back behind landscaping. There are a couple fun things. Every single house has a brightly colored door that matches their mailbox. Just think like a really interesting, vibrant community that comes out to share the park. Got a lot of nice WUI approved materials. Yeah, and if there's any questions, I do have further examples of what we did for the neighbors, but I think it's relatively resolved at this point. So yeah, I'm open for questions. Thank you so much.
Okay, commissioners, questions? Yeah, I have some questions. Section E shows a retaining wall that's 13 feet high. That's extremely high. Why isn't terrace the wall? And how are you shielding it from being such a large structure?
Section E. I may not have that in my, is it?
I don't know,
What page is it on?
2.2A.
2.0,
2.2A.
2.28.
Yes.
All right, I'm getting there. Thank you. 2.2.
And there was another section, I don't remember which one, had a 9-foot high wall. So there's several really high retaining walls.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is actually what we should probably be looking at right here. And I think it's valid question. How do you deal with a site that's across from BART that needs to have housing on it that is sloped, right? How do we do that? And so what we decided to do was to terrace it. We kept talking about, trying to approach this kind of like an Italian hillside, so that when you looked at it from Oak Hill, you sort of saw this terracing effect. So one of the things you're seeing here is section C. You see that culvert along Oak Hill Road, and then we kind of flatten out, and then we put the retaining wall in the house. So it's a single story from Loop B, and it's a 2-story from Oak Hill. So that was one way we tried to bury kind of how we handled the terracing. Then you come across Loop B, that lower section of the circle, and we do it again. And these are the larger units with the ADUs at the bottom, but we also bury that retaining wall in the house. You have a single story from the upper loop and a double story from the lower. Now, I think what you also might be wondering about is where my cursor is right now. There is
Down at that curb.
Yeah.
Sort of across from the green area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're at the very, very highest. It's really 6, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then there is a section right in here where it's about 12 feet. We've put a planter in front of it for things to grow in front of it. And we're using cow wall materials, which have a nice texture and a dark gray color. That is just the nature of the site. The very first thing we did was to deal with the fire department. We've met with them on multiple occasions. I had a really good fire code consultant. And this is what they wanted. And so that's, in order to preserve the tree, we gave it this ample, drip line and tree protection zone. That's really what we ended up with, was a very expensive wall, but also what makes the project feasible.
And what's in the planner? What species in the planter?
Something that grows up. I don't know. It's a good question. I don't think we, do you see that? I might not have that detail.
I didn't see a detail on that area that showed that to me.
There, it might not have, let's see what, I don't have that. Well, I can pull up my full set here. Let's see. Stephanie, do you have, wait, hold on.
I'm looking for the ledger one.
I know, and I keep forgetting I have a printed set right in front of me.
We are seeing something.
Okay, here we go. So we do have a planting plan on L 3.3, which indicates a particular plant at the base of that retaining wall. That is, it doesn't say specifically, it says small shrubs, vines, and ground cover. So it's indicated as something in this planter here that would grow up on that wall.
Okay. And can you go to the community garden? Can you bring up that slide?
The park,
Yes, yes.
this is facing, so east is, let's see. So east is on the top of the page here.
Yeah, so what's under the drip line of the tree there?
Nothing. And as a matter of fact, we had an outside landscape review that actually gave us a lot of compliments. We gave it a really good, tree protection zone. There is the wall, which Cal Wall has these details where they're helioptic, I can never get this word right. It's basically a drill, and you're able to go through and get it under the street, so there won't be any intrusion into the drip line. There is this black line here is a 42-inch guardrail just for people that are maintaining the landscape up there, which is completely natural. So everything is away from that tree. Nothing is happening up there.
Okay, so what is the other shade of green around the perimeter? What is that material?
So that's just, I think, to indicate that this is an area that is landscaped and irrigated.
Okay, with ground cover or?
Ground cover, and there is a planting plan with more specific plants on L 3.3
Okay,
that are
Thank
pretty
you.
well indicated. Like, we really kind of worked on, like, where do we, what kinds of, this is really like a rockery kind of condition up here. We wanted this lower part of the park to be level out to this courtyard of porches, front porches. And so to kind of mediate the wall and not have this gigantic wall all the way around, we sort of terraced this rockery wall down. This little golden area is kind of an overlook over the park, over the eating area. So it sort of terraces down.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, we have one speaker slip. Jim Baba. You have 3 minutes to present.
Well, I just had a couple of comments.
Okay,
The,
can you give your address for the record?
1061 Oak Hill Road.
Thank you.
And in truth, Laura has accommodated us, but, first of all, I think the whole project is far too excessive for the area. I mean, that we've been living in our house for 50 odd years. And, that had one house on it and another bungalow down below, which faces our bedroom. Anyway, to put 17 units on there just seems excessive. And not only that, but the noise factor. She did make an accommodation with the entrance of our driveway, but still it's going to come right virtually underneath our bedroom. I've planted a row of redwood trees to block off what I could. This goes back many years because they're semi-mature, to block off some of the view from our property. But, just all in all, it just seems like an excessive amount of units for, 2.2 acres or whatever the heck that is, 20.2 acres, 22 acres. I get what you said. I don't know what else to say. It's just, you lived in a unit in a place for 50 odd years and you see you're building a city within a city, essentially. And, it seems just far excessive to extreme and where does this stop? I know BART or the state of California wants multiple housing around BART areas. And I don't know how much that's mandated to the city to do that, but now I've got my house and I've got a vacant lot next to me, which is a complete building site according to the old rules, but I guess now I could put 10, 15 EDUs over there. Is that, my quarter acre? Where does this end? As far as going up Oak Hill Road? Anyway, just gotta pitch in on a little bit.
Okay,
But the shielding part is going to be is not good because again, for the Cripps house, those three, and I can't define the lots because I don't know the numbers of them. But she made an accommodation, move that 5 feet, but that gives them a window to look out of the, it breaks up everything. It just spoils the whole end of the lot.
okay. Any other comments? Anyone on Zoom to comment?
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, do we need any rebuttal by the applicant? You want a rebuttal or no? Okay, we are ready for commissioner comments. Who wants to start this evening?
I can start.
Thank you, John.
I'll start by saying that we all know that number one, there is a housing shortage in California, and whether or not we like the way the state is handling it, the state is handling it, and we have limits imposed on us by the state. I will say that another developer could have done a much more dense project on this site than what we see here. In my view, I think this is a project that kind of is an intermediate between the kind of, multifamily condo apartments that could have been built on this site and that we're seeing proposed for downtown. And the single family homes that are up the hills. In general, I would say I like the project. I find it a little difficult to understand the level of detail that we like to see in design review. And just to be clear, planning commission's purview approved the general building configuration, the massing, the number of units, the general size of them. And what our authority is to advise the city council on the architectural and landscape treatment. So regarding the architectural treatment, I wish I could see a little more detail about the way the buildings are articulated. In general, I think that I like the character. I would like to understand really how the windows are built and how much depth and shadow we see. And these drawings are very kind of pre-schematic in that way. But what concerns me more, and what my question was earlier, is I don't see enough analysis at the north edge of the project to really understand how privacy concerns are mitigated. I've heard some discussion that talks about attempts in that direction, which is great, but I don't really know if it's working or not. Maybe it is. We like to see site sections that show proposed landscaping and sightlines between buildings. And the one drawing taken from the neighbor, a view from the neighbor's driveway, the one with the white car, toward the site, I think suggests that the privacy mitigation is lacking at this point. So, that's the only aspect I would say that I'm really uncomfortable with. I think there's a lot of very positive things to be said about the design, but I would like to see a better analysis and screening work done at the northern neighbors.
Okay, Richard?
I think there's a lot to like about this project. I think that given the size of the lot and the number of units, I think that obviously there's been a lot of attention made in fitting the buildings into the site with the stepping of the building into the hillside with the daylight basements or the units below, which I think works really well. And I think there's a variety of unit types, so it's not all the same cookie cutter. There's actually a variety in the way they look. I think that the design approach is very pleasing. I like the design vocabulary that they're using in designing the buildings. So actually, I think that there's a lot to like. I don't have a lot of comments on the architecture. I think the color schemes are good. The materials, as best I can tell from what's presented, I think is appropriate for the site. It's kind of a nice approach with the smaller unit sizes than a lot of new developments that have much larger homes on them. So I do agree with the applicant about having a variety of housing types in the city for a variety of people to have access to that type of housing, which I think is a real positive. So anyway, from an architecture standpoint, I think it's good. I like it. I don't have comments or particular suggestions or objections to what's presented. I think it looks good. From the landscaping, which is sort of the whole other thing, clearly there's been attention paid to having a variety of tree types, having screening. And notice again on the north property line, there's laurel trees, and so there's attention to putting in additional planting on that edge between the existing neighbors and the new development. So all in all, I would say I don't really have any constructive comments to give to the applicant, but I like what I see here.
Okay, I don't know where to start. So first of all, to Mr. Bava, I appreciate your comment. Our hands are tied in many ways, and I do think that this is a good first step versus a 7-story building that's gonna go in Daly City, and eventually, by the time they hit Lafayette, they'll be thinking even higher, probably.
There have been other proposals for that site.
Yeah. Regarding the overall plan, I really like the idea that there's sort of one design concept, that they didn't take 17 homes and decide to make one Craftsman and one Spanish and one something else, California Ranch. That there's a theme there that carries through, how it ties in. I like the idea that there's some really small houses there, so we have some beginner homes where we used to have Moraga Boulevard, and now Moraga Boulevard has become bigger homes. We're going back to the 1,000-square-foot homes. I really am encouraged. That's a good starter home in Lafayette. My main concern is I don't really like the really tall retaining walls, okay? And while I see that the concept of working the retaining walls through the buildings, there is a segment that the buildings don't cover. And so there's got to be some terracing in that area. But a 12, 13-foot high wall is an extremely high wall. And planters that would grow something to sort of even conceal that are not going to be that successful. Okay, I mean, it looks like the planter's like really narrow. There's not a lot of room in that area, especially at that curve at section E. And the other thing that I'm a little concerned about, that I didn't see the normal comments from the city's arborist is that there is fescue being put under the heritage oak. And we never have fescue under a heritage oak. Ever in Lafayette. I mean, I have a heritage oak in my yard and I wasn't allowed to hardly put anything under, and definitely nothing that required, even if it's drought tolerant, there's just no fescue under heritage oaks. You're gonna kill the oak eventually. Other than that, I agree with John. I would have liked to seen a section, but I sort of went up there myself to see what it was like. And I think they made a lot of compromises, and I think that it's what it is. I think it's gonna have to be what it is. I'm not sure that I want to bring it back here. I'm not sure under density bonus that we can even bring it back here. Aren't we limited to 5?
We are limited to 5 hearings.
Yeah.
The city also needs to make a final determination on this project within 180 days of it being deemed complete. That deadline is approaching mid-August. And the project still needs to go to city council for the final decision.
Yeah,
So we are on a tight timeline.
I think that my opinion is that we just move on with the resolution and hope that staff has covered it adequately.
So one question, so I was under the impression that this is the heritage oak and maybe staff can help with that.
No.
Here. I believe so,
No, they said it was in the community park.
but,
It's
okay,
not.
I don't,
Huh?
I don't think.
Oh, it isn't.
I was
don't think
wondering
it's
if you were,
Isn't it this space here?
it is,
It is.
yes, it's that one.
And what's that one?
There is a tree here,
There's a
but
big-
I don't think it's the 100-year-old oak
No, it's
Oh.
this one.
here.
Okay,
It's this one.
because earlier
That's
they,
why
they pointed to the dark green and
It's
said,
this one,
okay,
and
that's okay.
this is the wall, and again, it's the walls where it is to protect the drip line of
Right.
the tree and everything.
And you're leaving that all natural, the way it is.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Okay, I apologize.
Yeah,
Somehow I
It
originally thought that.
wasn't-
But then when it was pointed out that it was up above, and I was like, well, can I see that plan? What's in there? Because there's fescue there. Okay, but I didn't realize, so there's no heritage oak. Okay. Sorry.
that's okay. No, I wanna make sure, yeah, you.
Yeah, it's good that it'd be clear, because I don't think it was crystal clear to me either until I kind of looked at it more closely. But it's also, I think, might behoove us to look at, as far as that wall goes, there is new landscaping. I'm trying to get my drawing to scoot down here, which I'm not succeeding on. Come on. Old fingers. Fine, if you look at the landscape plan anyway, give me a sec. There's new trees below the wall. I didn't, maybe you should introduce yourself. Are you one with the design team?
I'm the architect on the project,
Oh,
yes.
do you mind
Sure,
coming
yeah.
up and talking with us?
Sure.
If you don't mind, I'm jumping
Yeah.
in here. That's okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
could you also, say your name?
Sure, yes, I'm Jennifer Mastro with SDG Architects.
So there's also some new landscaping that's proposed below that retaining wall. There's new trees, I saw oak trees. Is that something you could go over with us?
I'm the architect of the buildings, not the landscape architect.
Okay.
I
But yeah,
assume
you're
familiar
correct.
with the project.
Yes. No, there's definitely planting, like, just as you stated, along there, to soften the edge and then to get the vines potentially growing up there. Yes.
I can speak
See,
to
I-
that as well. One of the changes we made after the last round of revisions was we are trying at the top of that hill to add new oaks as well, just for screening. And we had put two 24-inch boxes under the drip line because it's all kind of wooded up there. And I don't think we were thinking about that, but that was brought to our attention. We're like, oh, those can't be 24-inch boxes. That's too big of a hole with the roots. And so we moved it to 3 18-gallon new oak trees under the roots and moved those other replacement trees elsewhere. So the area under the oak tree is completely natural. In fact, it's protected with the guardrail, and the landscape consultant actually commented on how sort of inspired how we celebrated that tree and did a good job in preserving it.
And can you speak to the height of the retaining wall? Because I think it varies with the slope of the hillside. Then maybe you could talk us through that.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull up the split sheet here. One second.
Yeah, section E said 13 feet.
I think,
Yeah, there's about a 4-foot section that's 12 feet. And then the rest of it goes down from there.
because this hillside's coming up, so I think there's the section where the stairs are, is what I was understanding, is the taller portion where the
No,
staircase.
I
goes
think
up.
it's,
No,
it's up,
it's the opposite.
it's up
way.
where
So-
that,
Opposite way.
So it's
Yeah.
high, it's higher here
Okay.
and the road
it's
is
beginning of the
grading
turn.
down. So it comes down lower here.
Okay. And so, what's the height at the lower ends? Give us,
It goes
Oh my
down to
goodness,
can you give
I
us a
can't read that. Can't read that.
It basically goes down to nothing. It goes from 12 to
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah, because you end up you have a driveway here. For lot 11's driveway, so it basically goes down to 0, like Laura said, at the lots 11's driveway.
and this is the landscaping that I'm seeing, I can't tell you what all these are, or in their Latin names, but
Okay.
there is considerable landscaping in through this part that's new through here.
See, here's the part I'm concerned about, right in here,
Okay.
because that's where it's tall. And there's no landscaping, there's no shoulder to the road there to put anything in.
There's a 30-inch planter, a 6-inch curb on both sides of the planter, and then the fire road, which is 20 feet wide, which is required. So we worked on that with the fire department.
Okay, well. I assume staff will be because right now the landscape is a variety of shrubs or whatever, that staff will be reviewing what actually is going in
Yes.
more detail.
Yes, the landscape plan will be reviewed in more detail during the building permit process.
Yeah. Okay, so what do we want to do? Because I don't think we should be bringing it back here and.
I agree. I think we should propose additional conditions of approval.
Okay,
I'd like to suggest one.
okay,
I would like staff to work with the applicant to analyze privacy impact and refine the screening plan at the 2 northern neighbors' homes.
okay,
Yeah, in that regard, I can add a little bit more detail. So, from the 2 planning commission meetings, there was additional screening that was added. So there were additional trees that were planted on the project site. But as, there was also an agreement with that, property owner to the north to allow additional tree plantings on their property. So the applicant, can speak more to what that agreement is, since it was between the 2 private parties. The city doesn't have the full details, but my understanding is that there is an agreement for that private property owner to have additional trees on their property as well for additional.
they gave them $30.
Yeah, I saw they gave them a financial allowance.
But we can, add a condition to work further to add, to look at how that might.
Yeah, the sightline and section analysis just, it has not been done completely as far as I can tell.
Okay,
There-
any other
and-
resolution?
Dark sky compliant lighting is required. The lighting that was shown, it doesn't explicitly say that, but I'd just like to see that that is a condition of approval.
Okay, and I have one more change to the resolution. My name is spelled wrong.
Oh,
Oh. Oh, we missed it.
Okay, do we have a second on that?
was there, you.
He made do we have to firmly say about the CEQA and?
All right, so I'm moving to find the project exempt from CEQA, to accept the resolution 2025-08 amended as discussed.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Okay. Next item, park volunteer, unless there's someone fighting at the bit. Commissioners' reports
No?
No,
and staff reports. Okay, we are dismissed, adjourned. Adios.